Welcome to the InnoGuide Podcast, where we share the works of authors and mentors to guide innovation. In episode number 25, we're sharing part 1 of ChatGPT for Dummies by Pam Baker. This is a bit of a departure from the normal books that I choose, but there's a method to my madness here. The For Dummies series, published by Wiley, is designed to make complex topics accessible and engaging for beginners. These books follow a specific format and structure with a conversational tone, clear organization, and plenty of visuals like diagrams and screenshots. The key features of the format are the non-judgmental, jargon-free tone. The structure is modular chapters with headings and subheadings and bullet points. The visuals include diagrams, screenshots, and sidebars. Of course, you can't see those here, but I will mention key ones so that you can refer to them if you choose to read the book. It's got a very practical focus, and it's step-by-step instructions and actionable advice. So I've always loved the books for all of these reasons. From a content perspective, it's very comprehensive. They go deep, but it's very concise. It's beginner-friendly, but for people who have some experience with it, doesn't bore you to tears. So I enjoy reading them. They're very practical. And most important, the authors have to be subject matter experts with strong teaching skills. So that's one of the prerequisites. These authors have unusually solid teaching experience, which is something that most authors don't bring to the table. So it's an approachable tone, it's clear structure, actionable content. These books are trusted resources for readers, and they're designed to help people learn quickly and confidently. So without further ado, let's get into the introduction here. So this book is ChatGPT for Dummies by Pam Baker, and it clearly is not for dummies. It's just a format that I've grown to love. Introduction. Let's talk about ChatGPT. You might think this is another trendy tech thing that just popped up out of nowhere, but it's so much more than that. ChatGPT, it's been in the news, it's a game changer. It's a glimpse into the future of how we work, live, and interact with the world. Whether it becomes a massive success or fizzles out, one thing's for sure, it's already reshaping our lives and paving the way for AI to become a permanent part of the human experience. AI can feel overwhelming, even a little scary, and if you think that, you're not alone in feeling that way. But AI isn't going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI effectively might. So why not be that person? You can learn this. It's not as hard as you think. This book is here to help you get up to speed on ChatGPT. The technology is evolving fast, and by the time you finish reading, there'll probably be new updates. But not to worry, what you'll learn here will give you a solid foundation to build on, not just for ChatGPT, but for other AI tools that are bound to come along. Think of it as your starting point for navigating this brave new world. So let's talk about what's in the book. To begin with, this is one of the first comprehensive guides to ChatGPT, especially for beginners. And honestly, everyone's a beginner when it comes to this stuff, except maybe a handful of AI scientists. So you're in good company. Whether you're just curious or already dabbling with ChatGPT, this book will help you get more out of it. Plus, the author touches on other AI models and tools that are similar to ChatGPT, so you can compare and understand what's out there without getting bogged down in the technical jargon. And a quick heads up here, if you're reading the print version and come across a web address that breaks across 2 lines, just pretend the line break isn't there when you type it in. If you're reading the ebook, you're lucky, just click the link. So I do recommend reading this as an ebook. It's much easier to read as an ebook, either an EPUB format or a Kindle format. The book is written for anyone who wants to understand and use ChatGPT in their work or daily life. The author assumes you don't know much or anything about ChatGPT, but you're comfortable using computers, browsers, and web apps. And like every Dummies book, this one is designed for smart, busy people who want the good stuff with no fluff and no filler. And there are icons in the book, the usual tips and tricks, important info and warnings. So you'll see those if you're reading the book. There's also a cheat sheet that you can access online at www.dummies.com that's packed with quick tips such as writing prompts and other useful info to help you get the most out of ChatGPT. If you're reading the book, you don't have to read it cover to cover unless you want to. Each chapter stands on its own, so you can jump around, focus on what you want or what you need. But if you want to get started quickly, here are a few of the chapters, I think 5 chapters that she calls out separately. Chapter 2 explains how ChatGPT works, so you can understand what's happening behind the scenes. Chapter 3 is all about writing prompts, which is key to using ChatGPT effectively. How you ask it a question is very important, and it sets it up to understand under what circumstances you want it to behave in order to answer your question. And you'll see a little bit more of that once we get into it. Chapter 5 covers important issues that you need to know before diving in. And then 6 and 8 are, if you're worried about AI taking your job or affecting your personal life, these chapters have some reassuring insights. As a pro tip, the author recommends that you open ChatGPT and follow along as you read. Experiment with what you're learning. It's the best way to get the hang of it. So don't hesitate to stop this and try something out, even during the podcast, and then pick it up again. The beauty of ChatGPT is that it's really easy to use. The hardest part is stretching your imagination to see what's possible. But once you start, you'll catch on fast. So let's dive in and explore how ChatGPT can make your life easier, more productive, and maybe even a little more fun. So let's dive into the fascinating world of ChatGPT. This chapter is about introducing you to this groundbreaking technology, showing you how to access it, and helping you understand what it is and isn't. She tackles some of the fears surrounding it, comparing it to other tools like search engines, and explores its pros and cons. By the end of this chapter, you'll have a solid grasp of what makes ChatGPT such a big deal and why it's worth your time and attention. So, what is it? Why should I care? It's part of a category of AI called generative AI. Unlike older AI systems that just analyze data, generative AI creates new content, whether it's text, images, even music. What makes ChatGPT special is that it's a large language model, LLM. You see this all over the place now, meaning it can understand and respond to you in natural, human-like language. You type in your question or command, and ChatGPT responds in a way that feels like you're having a real conversation. But ChatGPT isn't just a chatbot you can play around with online, although you can do that at chat.openai.com. It's also being integrated into tools you probably already use, like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, even the Bing search engine. And the list of apps using ChatGPT keeps growing every day. So whether you're curious about it for personal use or wondering how it might show up in your workplace, it's worth learning about. Getting started with it. To set up an account, it's easy. You head over to OpenAI's website and click on the Try ChatGPT button. Follow the steps there to create an OpenAI account. And once you're in, you can choose between the free version or the premium ChatGPT Plus subscription for $20 a month. The premium version gives you faster responses, priority access during busy times, and early access to new features. But the free version works quite well. It may limit you to the number of queries you can make a day, and it may limit the response time, as the author says. Once you're set up, just type your question or command into the prompt bar, and ChatGPT will generate a response. You can keep the conversation going by entering follow-up prompts. Here's an important note. OpenAI can see the data you enter, so don't share anything private or sensitive. They may use this data to improve the model, so keep that in mind. So how is ChatGPT different from search engines? If you compare it to tools like Google or Bing, search engines are essentially ranking systems. They sift through massive amounts of data and prioritize the most relevant results based on your keywords. For example, if you Google something, you're likely to only look at the top 3 to 5 results. This ranking system shapes how we think and what information we receive and consume. ChatGPT, on the other hand, doesn't just rank information. It generates a unified answer based on your prompt. This can feel like it's smarter, less biased, and more truthful than a search engine, but that perception isn't entirely accurate. ChatGPT can make mistakes, provide misleading information, or even hallucinate. Fancy way of saying it can confidently give you the wrong answers. Unlike search engines, which pull from existing data, ChatGPT creates new content, which means it's not always reliable. What makes it unique lies in its conversational format. Unlike older chatbots that rely on pre-written responses triggered by keywords, ChatGPT generates its own responses based on your input. This makes it feel more dynamic and human-like. You can ask it questions, give it commands, and even have a back-and-forth conversation. It's like talking to a really smart but sometimes unpredictable assistant. That said, there are limits. For example, Microsoft capped the number of responses ChatGPT can give in a single Bing conversation to 5, and I think later 6. Why? Because the longer the conversation, the more likely it is for ChatGPT to get confused or go off the rails. So while it's impressive, it's not perfect. So what are the pros and cons of ChatGPT? It has its strengths and weaknesses. Here's a quick rundown. Pros: it's fast and can generate responses in seconds. It provides unified answers instead of making you sift through search results. It's conversational, it's easy to use. It has a wide range of applications from writing essays to coding. It can generate creative content like poems or marketing copy. Cons: it's not always accurate and it can make mistakes. Its responses can vary in quality. It can sometimes be offensive or misleading. Conversations aren't private, so be cautious about what you share. And AI-generated content isn't protected by U.S. copyright law. Bottom line, it's a powerful tool, but it's only as good as the person using it. If you can think creatively and write clear prompts, you'll get the most out of it. In terms of what they call the elephant in the room, addressing common fears, the fears surrounding ChatGPT, some people worry it will take their jobs, spread misinformation, or even lead to a dystopian future ruled by AI overlords. Here's the truth. ChatGPT isn't going to replace humans. It's a tool, not a replacement. The real threat isn't the AI itself, it's the people who know how to use it better than you do. So the best way to protect yourself is to learn how to use it effectively. And no, ChatGPT isn't some all-knowing, all-powerful entity. It doesn't think or feel. It's just a machine that predicts patterns based on the data it's been trained on. Sometimes it gets things right, sometimes it doesn't. It's not perfect, but it's also not the end of humanity as we know it. In terms of real-world applications, it can do much more than answer basic questions. Here are some creative ways people are using it. Writing essays, exams, poems, even ebooks. Generating marketing strategies or business plans. Coding new software, or using it to debug your existing code. Summarizing complex legal documents into plain English. Diagnosing illnesses based on medical data. Planning events like parties or weddings. Creating lesson plans for teachers or study guides for students. I've even seen it used to plan trips for RV people who are going to be traveling from Michigan to Florida over a 4-day period and actually recommending where to stay in between, with the prompt just saying, I don't want to drive more than 3.5 hours in any one trip. So it planned the entire trip for them. Possibilities are endless, but the key to unlocking ChatGPT's full potential is writing good prompts. Don't worry, we'll cover that in Chapter 3. In terms of the bigger picture, ChatGPT isn't just a chatbot. It's a sign of things to come. It's part of a larger shift towards AI becoming a regular part of our lives. While it's not perfect, it's a glimpse into the future of how we'll work, learn, and create. The question isn't whether AI will change the world, it's how we'll adapt to those changes. So what's next? Keep exploring, keep learning, and don't be afraid to experiment. ChatGPT is just the beginning, and the skills you develop now will help you navigate the AI-driven future. So let's get started. Chapter 2. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of how ChatGPT works. At first glance, it might seem just like another chatbot. You type in a question or command, and it spits out an answer. Simple, right? Not quite. ChatGPT is so much more than your average chatbot. In fact, it's a technological marvel that's redefining what AI can do. This chapter is all about understanding how ChatGPT works, why it's different, and how you can use it effectively. Plus, the author will share some tips to help us unlock its full potential. So what makes it different? What sets ChatGPT apart from tools like search engines or digital assistants? Think Google, Siri, or Alexa. When you use a search engine, it scours the internet for matches to your keywords and gives you a ranked list of results. You then decide which link to click and dive deeper into the source. ChatGPT doesn't give you a list of links. Instead, it generates a single unified response to your prompt, like a person would. No citations, no sources, just an answer. This might sound simple, but it's actually incredibly hard for an AI to do this. ChatGPT uses advanced models like GPT-3 and GPT-4 to analyze your input, understand the context, and predict the most likely words to follow. It's like a super smart guessing game, but the results feel natural and human-like. This ability to generate coherent conversational responses is what makes ChatGPT so impressive. So how does it work? ChatGPT is powered by a type of AI called a transformer neural network. Transformers are designed to process and understand language by analyzing patterns in massive amounts of data. For example, ChatGPT was trained on a data set that includes text from books, websites, and other sources, basically a snapshot of the internet as it existed in 2021. So here's how it works. You provide a prompt. This could be a question, command, even a snippet of code. ChatGPT analyzes the context. It looks at the words you've entered and predicts what should come next. Then it generates a response. Using its training data, it creates a reply that fits your intent and the context of your prompt. The result is a response that feels like it's coming from a real person. But remember, ChatGPT isn't actually thinking. It's just predicting patterns based on what it's learned. The power of GPT models. ChatGPT runs on OpenAI's GPT models, specifically GPT-3, GPT 3.5, and GPT-4. These are some of the largest and most powerful language models ever created. For example, GPT-3 has 175 billion parameters, basically the connections in its neural network. GPT-4 is even bigger and more advanced, although OpenAI has not disclosed the exact number of parameters. Why do parameters matter? Well, the more parameters a model has, the better it can understand complex language and context. This is why ChatGPT can handle everything from casual conversations to highly technical questions. The role of supercomputers. Training a model like GPT-4 isn't something you can do on a regular computer. OpenAI partnered with Microsoft to build a supercomputer specifically for this purpose. This beast of a machine has over 285,000 CPU cores, 10,000 GPUs, which are graphic processing units, and 400 gigabits per second of network connectivity per GPU server. All of this power is necessary to process the massive amounts of data and computations required to train a model like ChatGPT. It's a level of computing that most of us can't even imagine. So why does context matter? One of the coolest things about ChatGPT is its ability to understand context. For example, it knows that the word server could mean a waiter in a restaurant or a computer, depending on the surrounding words. This is thanks to a feature called the self-attention mechanism, which helps the model figure out the meaning of words based on their context. It's a very human-like skill, and it's what makes ChatGPT's responses feel so natural. Training the model. Training ChatGPT is no small feat. OpenAI uses a process called reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF. Reinforcement learning from human feedback. It uses this to fine-tune the model, and it works like this. Human trainers provided examples of good and bad responses. The model was adjusted based on this feedback. Users, like you, can rate responses with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which helps improve the model over time. This process is ongoing, which is why OpenAI released ChatGPT as a free research preview. They're essentially using us, the public, to give them feedback to make the model better. So what are ChatGPT's limitations? As amazing as it is, it's not perfect. Here are some of the key limitations. It can hallucinate. This means it might confidently give you an answer that's completely wrong. It doesn't always know when to stop. ChatGPT can be long-winded because it was trained on examples where longer answers were preferred. It's sensitive to how you phrase your prompt. Slight changes in wording can lead to very different responses. And it can be unreliable. Sometimes it guesses at what you want instead of asking clarifying questions. For example, if you ask ChatGPT to write a story, it might create something brilliant. But if you ask it a factual question, you'll need to fact-check its response to make sure it's accurate. Integrations and extensions. ChatGPT isn't just a standalone tool, it's being integrated into all kinds of software. For example, Microsoft Bing now includes ChatGPT for conversational search. Visual ChatGPT combines text and image capabilities, allowing users to edit images during a chat. Ghostwriter is a Microsoft Word add-in that lets you generate ChatGPT responses directly in your document. There are also browser extensions like Merlin for email and document summaries, and WebChatGPT, all one word, WebChatGPT, which adds current internet results to ChatGPT's responses. These integrations make ChatGPT even more versatile and accessible. Business opportunities with ChatGPT are there too. It's not just a tool, it is a business opportunity, and here are some ways people are using it. Generating business ideas and plans. For example, it can suggest new ways to store data or make healthcare more affordable. Automating communications. It can write email, marketing copy, contracts, and more. Creative projects. Writers can use it to brainstorm story ideas, while artists can pair it with tools like DALL-E, which is DALL-E, to create and sell digital art. The possibilities are endless, limited only by your imagination and your ability to write effective prompts. So, in comparison between ChatGPT and search engines, ChatGPT generates a single narrative response but doesn't cite sources. Search engines provide a list of links and reveal their sources. ChatGPT can be creative but might hallucinate, while search engines stick to matching keywords. Both have their strengths, but they're designed for different purposes. And one other thing I'll add is you can ask in the prompt for ChatGPT to generate responses and cite the sources, and it will do that as well. By default, it does not cite the sources. So final thoughts. ChatGPT is a groundbreaking tool. It's changing the way we interact with AI. It's not perfect, but its potential is enormous. Whether you're using it for work, creativity, or just for fun, understanding how it works will help you get the most out of it. And the key to success with ChatGPT is writing clear, thoughtful prompts. So keep exploring and see what this amazing technology can do. So let's dive into the fascinating world of GPT models and how they've evolved to power ChatGPT. If you've ever wondered what makes ChatGPT tick or why it keeps getting better, this chapter is for you. We'll explore the differences between ChatGPT 3, 3.5, and 4, and how these advancements impact performance, reliability, and even the risks involved. We'll break it all down. And this will be important to understand where the limitations of each of these models are for when you try to ask it to do something, you'll know what to expect. The journey started off with ChatGPT 3, which was released in November 2022 as a research model for public testing. By January 2023, OpenAI quietly rolled out GPT 3.5, a more stable and refined version that served as a stepping stone to GPT 4, which launched in March 2023. That's 3 major upgrades in just 4 months. Pretty remarkable. Here's the gist. GPT 3.5 was an improvement over GPT 3 in several ways. It was more aligned with user intentions, less likely to produce toxic or biased content, and overall was more stable. It also came with significant cost reduction for developers. GPT-4 was the real game changer, though. While the leap from GPT-2 to GPT-3 was bigger in terms of scale, the jump to GPT-4 is more meaningful. It's a high-powered, multimodal model that's safer, more reliable, and capable of handling more complex tasks. So what makes GPT-4 special? It's multimodal, we just said. So that means it can process both text and images as input. This is a huge deal in the AI world. For example, GPT-4 can analyze an image, extract data from it, and even explain visual humor. Imagine showing it a receipt and having it calculate the total or a tip for you. That's the kind of capability we're talking about. But while GPT-4 can accept images as input, its responses are still text only. So it's not generating images like DALL-E 2, which is DALL-E, DALL-E 2, another OpenAI model. But it's using the same underlying technology to enhance its reasoning and problem-solving abilities. GPT-4 has a much larger database and uses more computations than its predecessors. That means it can handle much more complex tasks, can provide deeper analyses, and deliver more creative responses. It's the largest and most advanced large language model to date. If you compare GPT-4 to 3.5, and if you're wondering whether you should stick with 3.5 or upgrade to GPT-4, it depends on what you need. From a performance perspective, GPT-4 is significantly better. It scores in the top 10% of humans on a simulated bar exam, while GPT 3.5 scored in the bottom 10%. Huge difference. Capabilities. GPT is better trained, more stable, and has enhanced reasoning skills. It's also less likely to hallucinate, although it's not perfect. And then the multimodality. GPT-4 can process images, while GPT 3.5 is limited to text. So if you're doing something that requires high accuracy or complex reasoning, GPT-4 is the way to go. But if you're just experimenting or working on simpler tasks, GPT 3.5 would be a solid option. Risks and limitations of GPT-4. As amazing as it is, it's not without its flaws. Keep these things in mind. With respect to hallucinations, GPT-4 can still make up information and present it as fact. While it's less prone to do this, it's not immune. Data cutoff. Like its predecessors, GPT-4's knowledge is limited to information available up to September 2021. If you need current data, you'll have to provide it in your prompt or use plugins like Wolfram or the browsing tool. Scalability risks. The sheer size and complexity of GPT-4 increase the risks associated with its use. OpenAI has implemented safety measures, but no system is foolproof. To mitigate these risks, always fact-check GPT's responses, especially for critical tasks like legal or medical advice. Think of it as a helpful assistant, not an infallible expert. Why predictability matters. One of the most impressive advancements of GPT-4 is its predictability. OpenAI researchers can now anticipate how the model will perform in certain scenarios, which is a big deal for reliability. For example, if you ask GPT-4 to solve 2 plus 5, it will consistently answer 7. This might sound basic, but earlier models were not this reliable. To achieve this level of predictability, OpenAI spent 2 years rebuilding their deep learning stack and co-designing a supercomputer with Microsoft. They also used GPT 3.5 as a test run to iron out the kinks before launching GPT-4. Choosing the right model. If you're using ChatGPT, you can choose which model you want to work with. GPT-3, GPT 3.5, or GPT-4. So how do you decide? GPT-4 should be used if you need high performance, better reasoning, or the ability to process images. Stick with GPT 3.5 if you're working on simpler tasks or don't need the extra capabilities of GPT-4. And consider GPT-3 if you're on a budget or just experimenting. I don't know that this matters that much anymore because we all have access to GPT-4 now, even the free versions. None of these models are obsolete, though. They're all powerful tools, and your choice should depend on your specific needs and whether or not the GPT-4 is available. The future of GPT models. Well, GPT-4 represents a significant step forward, but it's not the end of the road. Multimodality is a growing trend in AI, and other companies like Microsoft and Google are developing their own multimodal models. For example, Microsoft's Cosmos One and Google's PAL-M are competing with ChatGPT-4 in this space. OpenAI is also working to make GPT-4 safer and more reliable. They've open-sourced their evaluation framework, OpenAI Evals, to crowdsource better testing and training methods. This is part of a broader effort to ensure that AI models are as trustworthy as possible. Final thoughts for this chapter. GPT-4 is a groundbreaking model that takes ChatGPT to the next level. It's more powerful, more reliable, more versatile than its predecessors, but not perfect. and it's important to use it responsibly. Always fact-check its responses, be mindful of its limitations, and choose the model that best fits your needs. Whether you're using ChatGPT 3, 3.5, or 4, the key is to understand their strengths and weaknesses. With the right approach, you can unlock the full potential of these incredible tools. So go ahead, experiment, explore, and see what these models can do for you. Chapter 3. Let's talk about one of the most important skills you'll need to master when using ChatGPT, writing prompts. Think of prompts as the key to unlocking ChatGPT's full potential. Sure, you can type in a simple question and get a basic answer, but if you want ChatGPT to really shine, you'll have to learn how to craft thoughtful, detailed prompts. And this chapter is about helping you do just that, whether you're a beginner or looking to up-level your skills. Why do prompts matter? Well, using ChatGPT is kind of like using a microwave. You tell it what to do, and it does it. But if you don't give it clear instructions, you might not get the results you want. A poorly written prompt will lead to a generic, encyclopedia-like response, and you'll probably think, this is just a toy. I could have Googled this. So this is a common mistake for beginners, and it's why some people give up on ChatGPT too soon. The truth is, prompting is both the easiest and the hardest part of using ChatGPT. It's easy because you don't need technical skills to write a prompt, but it's hard because crafting a great prompt requires creativity, critical thinking, and attention to detail. In fact, some companies are even hiring prompt engineers to write prompts professionally. But don't worry, you don't need to be an expert to get started. With a little practice, you'll be amazed at what you can get ChatGPT to do. The basics of prompting. When you open ChatGPT, you'll see a clean, simple interface with a prompt bar at the bottom. This is where the magic happens. You type in your question or command, and ChatGPT responds instantly. But the quality of ChatGPT's response depends entirely on the quality of your prompt. For example, if you type something vague like write a business plan, ChatGPT will give you a generic outline. It's fine, but it's not groundbreaking. Now, if you take the time to add details, like the type of business, target audience, and specific goals, you'll get a much more tailored and useful response. Here are some ways to make your prompts more effective. Assign ChatGPT a role or persona. For example, you can tell it to respond as a doctor, a teacher, or even a famous historical figure like Einstein or Shakespeare. Set the stage. Provide context for the situation, like asking it to write a speech for a high school graduation or a presentation at a tech conference. Be specific. The more details you include, the better the response will be. Think of your prompt as the starting point of a pattern that ChatGPT will complete. If your prompt is vague, the response will be vague. And if your prompt is detailed, the response will be rich and nuanced. Starting a chat is as simple as typing your question or command into the prompt bar, but there are a few things to keep in mind. Add data to your prompt. If you want ChatGPT to work with specific information, include it in the prompt. For example, you can paste a snippet of text or data and ask ChatGPT to analyze it. Direct the style and tone. You can tell ChatGPT to write in a formal tone or use simple language or even mimic your own writing style. Use images if you're on ChatGPT 4. Soon, you'll be able to include images in your prompts, and ChatGPT will analyze them as part of its response. When you're done with a topic, it's good to start a new chat. This prevents ChatGPT from getting confused by mixing unrelated topics in the same thread. However, starting too many new chats on the same topic can lead to repetitive responses, so try to strike a balance. Understanding prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the art of crafting prompts to get the best possible responses from AI. It's a mix of creativity and logic, and it's becoming an in-demand skill. Think of it like being a journalist who knows how to ask the right questions to get the answers they need. Here are some tips for effective prompt engineering. Define your goal. What exactly do you want ChatGPT to deliver? Start with the end in mind and craft your prompt to guide ChatGPT toward that goal. Think like a storyteller. Give ChatGPT a character or a role to play, like a chemist, a consultant, or even a fictional character. This helps shape its response. Be specific and concise. The more details you include, the better the response will be. Avoid vague or overly broad prompts. For example, instead of asking, "What's the best way to market a product?" you could say, "You're a marketing consultant. Create a social media strategy for a new eco-friendly water bottle targeting millennials." Working with token limits. ChatGPT processes text in units called tokens, which are essentially pieces of words. Each chat has a limit of 4,097 tokens as of this time, which includes both your input and ChatGPT's response. If your prompt is too long, the response might get cut off. Here's how to manage token limits. Condense your prompts. Write your prompt elsewhere, edit it for clarity, and then paste it into ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT to condense or summarize. If a response is too long, you can ask ChatGPT to shorten it or summarize the key points. Use OpenAI's Tokenizer tool. This tool helps you estimate how many tokens your prompt will use. For reference, 1 token equals 4 characters. 100 tokens is 75 words. A typical paragraph is about 100 tokens. And I want to go back to this, how to manage token limits. This is an interesting point. When they say ask ChatGPT to condense or summarize, those are two different functions. If you give it an article and you ask it to summarize it, you will get a summary that will exclude some of the content based on what it believes is important. If you ask it to condense it, you don't lose any of the content, but it makes it shorter. So it makes it more concise without taking out any of the data. And then if you summarize something and it's too long and you say condense it, you will get a shorter version of the summary. So something's already been lost, which you'll have to verify is not important to you, but then it will condense that into a shorter read of the summary. So those behaviors are different, summarizing and condensing. Thinking in threads. A thread is a series of related prompts and responses that build on each other. Instead of cramming everything into one prompt, you can break your request into smaller connected prompts. This helps guide ChatGPT's thought process, in quotes, and keeps the conversation focused. For example, if you're writing a business plan, you could start with, "You're a business consultant. Create a mission statement for a new coffee shop. Now, outline a marketing strategy for the coffee shop. 3. What are some potential challenges and how can we address them?" By thinking in threads, you can create a more structured and productive conversation. Chaining prompts and other strategies. Prompt chaining is a technique where you use multiple prompts to guide ChatGPT through a complex task. Each prompt builds on the previous one, creating a step-by-step process. For example, start with a broad question, like, what are the key elements of a successful website? Then narrow it down. Now focus on search engine optimization strategies for a blog. Get specific. Write a sample blog post outline using those search engine optimization strategies. Other tips for crafting great prompts. Take your time. Writing a good prompt takes effort, so don't rush it. Use prompt libraries. There are tons of resources online, like GitHub repositories that offer pre-written prompts for different use cases. Hunt them down. Experiment. Don't be afraid to try different approaches and see what works best. Final thoughts for Chapter 3. Writing prompts for ChatGPT is both an art and a science. The better you get at it, the more powerful and useful ChatGPT becomes. Whether you're using it for work, learning, or just for fun, mastering the art of prompting will help you unlock its full potential. So start experimenting, get creative, and see where your prompts can take you. So in our next episode, we're going to cover Chapter 5, Warnings, Ethics, and Responsible AI. Chapter 6, Probing Professional and Other Uses for ChatGPT. Chapter 7, Working with ChatGPT in Education. Chapter 8, Using ChatGPT in Daily Life. Chapter 9, Recognizing the Ways ChatGPT and Generative AI Will Change the World. And Chapter 10, 10 Other Generative AI Tools to Try. So we'll leave it there, and I hope you'll join us next time. That's a wrap.